welcome to the latest episode of Vijf Vragen, or Five Questions as we would say in English. This is our podcast featuring the people of the Netherlands' diplomatic network here in the U.S. We're talking with the diplomats and policy officers about the strong bonds between the United States and the Netherlands, as well as our diplomatic work here in the U.S. We're focusing on the collaborations between our two countries that make our relationship a partnership that works. I'm Jeff Allenak from the Embassy's Communications Office, and I'm talking with Maurice Ouderland and Luuk Nijman, both of whom work at the Netherlands Consulate General in Miami, and I'm talking to them over Zoom. Thank you for joining me today, guys.
Thank you, Jeff. Pleasure to be here.
I asked both of you to join me today because you guys are deeply involved in organizing the Dutch participation in South by Southwest, the annual festival and conference that takes place every March in Austin, Texas. Or at least I should say, you're planning a specific part of the Dutch participation. But before we dive into that deep end, I'd like to start with a more basic question. How did you two end up in Miami, and what's your background? Maurice, let's start with you.
Well, I'm here since June of last year, so not too long. I ended up here because I wanted to be here and to be with my family. I worked in communications all my life. My last job was with the KNVB, the Dutch Football Federation.
So that's the sort of like the professional, for our American friends, that's sort of like the professional soccer league in the Netherlands, right?
But no, it's the federation. So you have the league, and the federation is the organizer, and they organize football for professionals, but also for grassroots.
Football, soccer. Well, we would say soccer, but you say football.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I watched American football last night, and that was funny because nobody touches the ball with their foot. Unless it's the last second and you still have to win. So that's what happened last night. But
the field goals.
They do grassroots and professional, both. And
okay.
I was their head of communications for the last 4 years. And then in that job, I met the Consul General here, Ruth. And we kept in touch. And then there was an option for me to be here. So here I am.
Well, certainly Miami is a nice city to be in, I would imagine.
That too.
Especially over the winter. How about you, Luke? You're actually the Deputy Consul General in Miami. How did you wind up there, and what does your job entail?
Just to reflect on what you just said about winter in Miami, it's actually very cold now in Miami terms, meaning it's about 18 degrees Celsius, which is about 65 Fahrenheit, which from the Netherlands is very nice for this time of year. But here people bust out their beanies and their winter coats and their Uggs. So it's serious. It's a cold snap.
It's a cold day in Miami when it's 65 degrees. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. But to answer your question, I also ended up here just like Maurice. Because I wanted to be here, and it hasn't disappointed, but with a bit of a different background. I've been with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for about 10 years now. Had a couple different postings in Brussels. I was in Belgrade, Serbia. I spent some time in DC, and now I've been in Miami for 3.5 years. And those cities that I mentioned are all very different, but the work is always about connecting with the host country and building international bridges, and that's also what we do here. We cover an area that extends from Florida all the way to Texas, plus a number of island states in the Caribbean, and where we build connections between the Netherlands and the U.S. So for myself as head of the economic team, together with the rest of the colleagues, we focus on a number of priority industries where we see opportunities here in the U.S., where we think the Netherlands has a particular expertise, and where we think we have an added value in bringing those parties together. So that's sports, for instance. We'll talk a bit more about that. Maurice covers that, but also the maritime sector, also water, mobility, the energy transition. And it's never a boring day. It's always interesting to meet people who are passionate about what they do, who are open to working with our American friends. So it's a very rewarding and gratifying thing to do.
Great. You mentioned sports, which is what we're talking about here today. Maurice, what can you tell me about what you're planning for South by Southwest? it has to do with sports tech. Is that right?
Yeah, sports and tech. And South by Southwest is much more than that, of course. It's a worldwide phenomenon. And they talk about anything in the days that South by Southwest is there. We focus on the sports track, as they call it, which is from 11 till 13th of March. And yeah, they talk about all kinds of subjects with sports, but we want to do something around it which comes closer to what we normally do, which is connecting, as Luuk said, organizations from the Netherlands, companies in sports with the local network, in this case in Austin.
Okay. When you mentioned sports, are you talking about playing the games or more the business of the sport?
Everything. To tell you a little bit more about what we're going to do, but normally we focus on three things, which is fan engagement and community, grounds and operations, and data and athletic performance. So those three. And sustainability is another one that pops up where Dutch companies are sort of far ahead, because you have to see the US market is huge and far ahead of anything else. Sports market I'm talking about, but in general. So what can they learn from the Dutch? That's a feasible question. And you see a lot of the technologies that we have an advancement in is rooted in football, in soccer. And so it could be the growing of grass. Well, you saw the pitch last night at the Super Bowl. It was slippery. We have grass masters in the Netherlands who are really a master. And within our network, we have a couple of them that often come over to the US to talk, because World Cup 26 is coming up and everything needs to be grass. And the FIFA they are very strict with that.
So it's not as simple as just throwing some grass seed out there and say it'll grow, because that's how I do my lawn at home. But
how is that working?
Yeah. I don't know that I'd want to walk on it, much less play a professional sport on it. So probably not too well.
No, it's mastery what these guys can do with it, and they have systems in place. They can measure the bounce rate of grass. I mean, let's go on that.
The bounce rate, like how high a ball would bounce?
Yeah, there's drainage systems, so you can pick up the water, keep it, and when you need it, it comes up again. Instead of flooding the grass. So yeah, there's all kinds of Dutch inventions on that part. But there's other things too, like data for athletic performance. So those we connect to local organizations, sports teams, companies, and what we're going to do in Austin is on the 11th we have I call it our own little party, but we have an hour where we talk about do good through sports, which is, if you say it, might be the soft side of sports, but it isn't, because we combine it with tech. So, for instance, we talk about mental health in sports, and we do that with an ex-international player of the Dutch team, Edson Braafheid. He has a company in that, so he wants to help people who are in the spotlight or will become in the spotlight.
Is this a panel discussion then that you're talking about on March 11th?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And so that's one part, and we will team him up with a company that he has teamed up with already, Alpha Beats, and that's a company that specializes in it's called the Alpha straling, yeah. It's what your brain has, and they can influence that with music.
So it's kind of like the music that you listen to affects your mood. Is that what you mean?
It reads your brain and it adjusts the music accordingly. So it's sort of like an equalizer. I'm not an expert because this is just a company that we work with, but they're very impressive. And mental health is an issue. Becomes bigger and bigger in sports when people speak out finally. I met a guy in LA, an NFL player. So yeah, this is something that the Dutch are interested in, that we have on our agenda for a long time. not long enough, but it's working, and we're transporting our knowledge to here. And the other thing we're talking about is inclusion in sports. And we do that with somebody from the federation I already spoke about, KNVB, and the campaign that we ran in the Netherlands called One Love that became worldwide during World Cup last year when FIFA said, One Love, we're not going to do it. There was a captain's armband that was banned. So, that's our hour that we're going to fill at South by Southwest. And there's a company involved. Sorry, I forgot about that. And that's important too. It comes out of a plan of attack of how to avoid discrimination in sports. It focuses on different elements, and One Love was the awareness campaign. But there's also how you punish people when they do stuff like that. And that's pretty tough because you need to prove it. And to prove it, you need excellent cameras that also can register sound to it. And there's a company in the Netherlands that is running a pilot right now there that has those smart cameras. But he's also coming to the US because there they want to use it for fan engagement. So it's the same product that you can use in different ways.
So it's looking at the audience then, for example.
The most simple form is, you've been to games, make some noise. And then you have they measure the noise. Yeah, well, this camera can do that better. So that's an interesting company as well, Sorama, and they're going to join us as well, hopefully, to support the KNVB story. They work with KNVB together, like Alpha Beats works with on mental health with Edson Braafheid. So we put sports and tech together on the podium.
Yeah, the mental health one is especially in the spotlight now. I think of Simone Biles, a gymnast who dropped out of the Olympics. And on the outside, you think somebody at that level doesn't have any problems, is handling everything fine. The mental health part of it is pretty important.
Yeah, and that's what Edson is trying to teach us as well. And I've never played on a high level, but even as an amateur sporter, you have mind games with yourself. But what if you're a big sporter and one day you get injured and you never be able to play sports again? What does that do to your mind, your health, your mental health? So I'm actually trying to connect Edson to as many people here that I know, and that's basically our work. Connect.
As a player, you were a goalkeeper, which is a very particular position because even in a team sport, it's a very
you're on your own. You're on your own, and I know from experience, but I didn't want to take the whole podcast about that. But it's a mind game. A goalie is alone most of the time. He gets 1 or 2 or 3 balls, and he has to stop them. And if not, then he's to blame, or she. It puts a lot of pressure on you. And there's not many people that can help you because you actually have to be a goalie to understand.
I think of it as a pitcher in baseball. You're out there on your own, and you can have a good day or a bad day, and sometimes it's the mood that you're in that really affects it.
Correct. You're as good as your last ball, and that's not for everybody in a team. Like the striker, if he misses one, he has another opportunity in 2 seconds. But
Right.
So it's a mind game, and you see individual players coming out right now, like tennis players, the gymnast you were talking about. And it's a big thing because there's a lot of pressure from yourself, pressure from the surroundings, social media. And people just expect, because I did it last time, I'm going to do it again. And it's not that simple.
If it were, everybody would do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Luuk, if I'm not mistaken, this is just a portion of the Dutch participation. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we do from Miami. It's what we do as a U.S. missions network, but it's certainly also what we do from the Netherlands as a broader participation. And I think the examples that Maurice just gave of Alpha Beats and of Sorama perfectly illustrate what South by is all about. It's really how can creative solutions help to address societal challenges, the challenges that we all face, where we can exchange ideas with our friends in the south of the U.S. And that also fits perfectly with Austin, which has really grown as a hub for innovation, for tech entrepreneurship. A number of the larger tech companies recently moved to Austin, but it's also for startups and entrepreneurs. It's a great place to be and to grow your business, and that offers opportunities for the Netherlands. So, from organized by New Dutch Wave and Creative Netherlands, there was a group of companies and organizations coming from the Netherlands that each work on creative solutions to these societal challenges that I mentioned. Think, for instance, of climate change or the energy transition or urbanization, where a number of these creative ideas will be showcased. For instance, there's a company called Drop Stuff, where through immersive technology, they raise awareness of water use. Another example is Bojan Slot, who founded the Ocean Cleanup. How can we think of creative solutions to make our oceans a little cleaner? Or a company called Polymorph from the Netherlands that set up this art installation where, which is also immersive tech. You can experience what it's like to be an animal or to be a plant. So in different ways, the creative industries are being used to tackle societal challenges. That is also very much what the Dutch participation is like, with focus not only on immersive tech that I mentioned, but also different societal innovations, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, serious gaming, and to also tackle topics like diversity and inclusion. And we have a packed program in the official South by Southwest programming, but also at the let's call it the Dutch House, which is officially called the Innovation Bridge Europe, where together with Germany and Austria, there's a Europe House, and we will take care of part of that programming. So it's very broad, but it all boils down to creative industries helping out with societal challenges.
It's important to bring all the creatives together in one place. I can see how they need some creativity to keep the world moving forward. Maurice, let's get back to that sports tech you mentioned. Is it just for the professional level, or would it be for youth sports and development, college athletes, for example? Is it really accessible for the athletes who want to become professionals?
Well, it depends on what subject you're talking about, but let's say if we go back to grass, those pitches are used more often than the professional pitches.
Yeah, that's a great example, because there's also, we could talk about that more as well, because where there are a lot of fields, they're just dirt, and you get to the end of it, and that's not good for athletes to play on. So
no, and in Holland you have a lot of rain. So what do you do with the rainwater if it's, sometimes you have too much, sometimes not enough. So because of that, those companies have invented stuff that could be welcome for the US as well, who's not known to play on grass, and that has severe climate differences if you go from Seattle to, let's say, Miami. There's a big difference. But FIFA, and now I'm talking professional, of course, but FIFA is going to say, hey, we need the same grass pitch everywhere. There shouldn't be a disadvantage or an advantage. So in that way, it's interesting for Dutch companies to come here and try to talk on that level with organizations here or stadium owners, because it's differently organized. Now, if I look at grassroots level, soccer-wise, still a lot to do. You're going to get to a level where you say, well, the pitch needs to be better, or we no longer can play on turf. We need to really play on grass. But also with the mental health thing, I know Alpha Beats in the end, without trying to be a commercial spokesperson for them, but in the end, what they want to do is have a kit that you can buy that is easy to apply, because it's not even the money right now. Right now, it's you have to put a band on your head so it can read your brain waves. That sounds a little too much for some people, unless you're on a semi-professional level already. But in the future, maybe our AirPods can read brainwaves too. It's actually doing that already, but on a higher level. And then you and I can buy a kit cheap and say, hey, you know what? I have a problem sleeping. I might not need it for sports tomorrow, but I might need it to be, fresh and available at work. So in that way, a lot of these inventions can go anywhere, from personal level to really professional levels.
Yeah, now even I'm thinking of the Apple Watch. They what they can do now versus when it first came out. Now it can detect arrhythmia, I believe, or at least it can keep track of your pulse rate, and that is much better than the watch I have on, which can tell time, and I have to keep it in the sunlight to recharge. Sounds like an exciting time.
Yeah, it's great to see that kind of companies being interested in the American market and how we can help them with that.
Luke, what impression of the Netherlands would you like to leave with the people who attend South by Southwest, especially those who know little to nothing about the Netherlands?
I'd like to leave the impression in Texas and in Austin in particular, where our economic cooperation is very strong already. Texas is the number one state for Dutch trade and investments within the U.S. I'd like to leave the impression that we're open to working with our American friends, and that we come up with creative solutions, and we'd like to exchange those with the U.S. and that together we can use innovation to work on tackling climate change and to promote the energy transition and to work on public health and vitality also through sports. So for those in Texas, the very few who have not heard of the Netherlands, I hope that after the astounding Dutch presence at South by Southwest, they're like, hey, those Dutch people, maybe give them a call and let's work together.
They're pretty smart people, yeah. Just one final question, and I'll direct this one to you, Luke, though Maurice, if you have an opinion on it, feel free to chime in. Luke, you and I have chatted over the years about Major League Baseball, of all things. Given the popularity of soccer in Europe, it always surprises me when I meet a Dutchman who knows a thing or two about baseball. So let me ask you, should Major League Baseball adopt an electronic strike zone?
That's a tough one. And I'll
this year we have a pitch clock coming, larger bases, the band on the shift. It's not going to be the same sport this summer as it was for years before.
No, I fully agree. And the human element in the sport is also what makes it fun. Umpires make mistakes. They're human. So if you're on the losing end of that is frustrating. But I do believe that ultimately we should use technology to improve every sport. We had the same discussion in soccer when it came to the video assisted referee, or whether we should put cameras on the goal line to see if the ball went in or not. And
what was the decision? Is that standard, or is it still in play? Is it still debatable?
It's becoming much more standard, and it really impacts the game. And on balance, I think it impacts the game for the better. So I think I know how heated the debate is about the strike zone, and I can relate to it. But I think ultimately it would be an improvement, and maybe to expand on baseball a little bit. I do hope that baseball will also increase in popularity in the Netherlands, because part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Curaçao and Aruba. Baseball is huge. Curaçao is actually the baseball island. They have the highest number of MLB players per capita in the world, and some of the Dutch MLB players are from Curaçao and Aruba. So that's something we're, especially in Miami, given the proximity to the Dutch Caribbean, we're very proud of.
That statistic has always surprised me because I have to think about it a little bit. There's more people per capita, but it's ultimately then this. I think there's maybe 7 or 8 Curaçaoans playing. But there are maybe 150,000 people on the island. So that when you get it down to the number of MLB players per 1,000, then it's astonishing how many there are.
It's phenomenal, and it says something about the popularity of the sport, but also of the also says something about the infrastructure and the training and the professionalism, I think, when it comes to baseball in Curaçao and Aruba.
Another thing I remember, I believe it was Ozzy Albies. I saw a short documentary of him one time, and he explained why he was such a good infielder, because the infields where he grew up on, they were so rocky that the ball would just take these crazy shifts. It would just go where you wouldn't expect it because there was a divot or there was a rock or something. And so you had to have these fast reactions. Then when you come up where it's smooth, it's pretty easy. Well, easy in comparison. I'm not saying I could do it because believe me, I couldn't. But it is impressive.
Yeah. Well, we're waiting for some of the Dutch players to come to Miami to strengthen the Marlins.
For the and the World Baseball Classic, right? That's coming around.
Exactly. Yeah. Where the Kingdom team will participate, the Kingdom of the Netherlands team. Miami will have a game in every round of the tournament, but they will be hosting both the semifinals and the final. So we're pretty confident that we that we can welcome the Dutch team here.
It would be something if we had the USA team and the Netherlands team play in the final.
Yeah, well, if the result's the same as in the Soccer World Cup in December, then I think we would welcome that. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you again, guys, for joining me for this episode of Vijf Vragen. Though I think I might have asked a few more than 5 questions again, becoming a real habit. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Please tell us what you think in the comments below, and be sure to click on the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode or the other videos we post on our YouTube channel. I'll be back behind the microphone next month with another member of the Dutch Diplomatic Network in the United States. Until then, you can keep up with our work on any of our social media channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Just search for NL in the USA, and you can stay up to date on how the United States and the Netherlands have a partnership that works.